into terminology, and we're going to continue with our organizational lectures about suffixes, prefixes, word roots, and we're going to end this major component of the lecture by talking about body organization. So in this lecture, we're going to discuss ways to describe the body in relation to the cell, to tissue types, to body systems, and body cavities, as well as reviewing my favorite, which are directional terms. Right? So let's see if I can use my controller here real quick and shared screen. Give me a second while I try to figure out how to move the slide forward. Nope. Hey, that's it. Nice. Okay, so what we're going to do, just like we did before, we're going to discuss the 4 parts of medical terms. We're going to keep reviewing that throughout the semester. Recognize word roots and combining forms, which we have already done that. Identify the most common prefixes and suffixes. We're going to continue doing that. But in this particular lecture, we're going to do the next 3. Describe the anatomical position, define the body planes, identify regions of the body, and obviously the 4th one, define directional and positional terms. And as always, we're going to build, divide, spell, and pronounce common words. So if you can't see the bottom of that, that's okay. Okay, so let's go to right here. I want to make sure that I get through all my notes so I don't miss any highlights of what I'm wanting to discuss with you. Oops, too much. Wish this was a little easier to use. All right. Okay. So if you've taken an anatomy and physiology class, you probably already know that the body is composed of different types of cells, and the cells come together to form tissues, and a tissue is formed when like cells are grouped together and function together to perform a specific activity. And the body has 4 types of cells, and each cell type groups together to form a type of tissue. Right? So let's move this forward. Oops, I did it again. All right, so we got connective tissue, and connective tissue is just that tissue that supports and protects the body. It provides structure. It's things like bones, ligaments, and tendons. These all form connective tissues. We also have something else called epithelial tissue, and this is a tissue that covers surfaces inside and outside the body. We normally think of epithelial tissue as outside the body, but it's actually inside the body as well. The skin, the lining of the stomach, for example, and the lining of the intestines, these are all examples of epithelial tissue. Oops, went too far. I'm trying to match my slides with your slides up there. Okay, the other type of tissue is called muscle tissue. This is the tissue that helps the body move. We have skeletal muscles, which is one example of muscle tissue. There are 2 other types of muscle tissue, but we're going to focus on that for this section because we'll be dealing with orthopedics in the next couple of weeks, meaning skeletal and the muscular system. The last type of tissue, the 4th type of tissue, is nervous tissue. And these are tissues that carry messages from the brain and spinal column, and they allow information to be sent between the brain and the rest of the body through a network of nerves. Oops, get to the next slide. This might be a little clunky at first, but as soon as I get a little bit of a better hang of this, let's see, shared screen. Okay, now if I do this, yes, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, now I just move the slide a little easier instead of me trying to find that little button somewhere. All right, so cells, we talk, describing the body systems. Is this slide 4? Yeah. So cells, remember, cells form tissues, tissues form into organs, and organs form into systems. And so we have a system, and that's composed of several organs functioning together in a coordinated manner. And the body is divided into various systems, and we're going to discuss these systems. We're going to highlight these systems in this lecture here. It's too far. So the first one is the integumentary system, which we see up there. This system includes the skin, hair, nails, sweat, and oil glands. It receives sensory information from the sensations of pain, touch, temperature. It protects the internal organs from infection and trauma, and it regulates body temperature by sweating. We also have the next system up there, which is the musculoskeletal system. Right, so the musculoskeletal system includes muscles, bones, cartilage. It supports the body and produces body movement, both of them together, the muscular and the skeletal system. Oops, too far. Trying to get to the next slide. We will get a little better at this. This looks like a big tablet. This looks like a big tablet, but it is very sensitive. Okay, and the last thing we have up here as far as systems, we have the cardiovascular system up there in the slides. The cardiovascular system includes the heart and the blood vessels, and it pumps blood throughout the body to transport nutrients, oxygen, and to get rid of waste. A little touch, and this thing moves too fast. Right. Just a little. And shared screen. There we go. Respiratory, nervous, the urinary system. All right. So the next 3 systems we're going to talk about is the respiratory system, the nervous system, and the urinary system. Now, I got to be careful where I walk because my dog is right on the floor somewhere. That's lucky. So I'm going to be walking around like this, trying to feel for him. All right. So the respiratory system, you see up there the lungs and the airways. So the respiratory system includes the lungs and the airways. It functions to obtain oxygen. It also removes carbon dioxide from the body. The next system that we see up there is the nervous system, right? So this includes the, way too fast here. Way to a different slide. 2 slides forward on my tablet. All right, so it includes the brain, the spinal cord, and the associated nerves. It receives information from the body relating to the senses. I think we said this already. It includes pain, touch, temperature, body position. It coordinates body movement and stores and interprets memory and emotion. And the last system on this particular slide is the urinary system. And this includes the kidneys, the ureters, more than just this, but these are just the highlights, right? It includes the bladder and the urethra, and its function relates to excreting urine and waste products. So let's go to the next slide. Slide 6. I'm getting a little better at this. The next one is the reproductive systems, the female and the male reproductive system. So the female reproductive system, this includes the ovaries, the vagina, the fallopian tubes, the uterus, and the mammary glands. And again, this system secretes hormones itself. It produces ova. Remember that we talked about this in the previous lecture. Ova is just the plural for ovum. And then it regulates menstruation, pregnancy, and milk production from the breasts. And then we have the male reproductive system. This includes the testes, the penis, the prostate glands, the vas deferens, which is pronounced vas deferens, and the seminal vesicles. So this system also secretes hormones and produces the sperm required for fertilization. And then sometimes these two systems in your anatomy and physiology class may be combined into one system. In our textbook, it's broken down into two different systems under reproductive system. And that was fast. Let's see. Slide 7. I just have to get a little bit better at this. Okay. Slide 7. I can't see the slide number from here because I'm not wearing my glasses. But again, blood system, lymphatic immune system, digestive system, and the endocrine system. So these are other systems, right? So the blood system, lymphatic, digestive, and endocrine. The blood system includes the blood and all the components. So the function of this system is to transport oxygen, protect against pathogens, and control bleeding. The lymphatic system and the immune system, this includes the lymph, which is the fluid, lymph glands, lymphatic vessels, and this system is key in recognizing and destroying disease-causing organisms and abnormal cells. And then the next one on the list there is the digestive system or digestive system, and get a little tap right there. This includes all organs of the digestion and excretion. Don't worry, we're going to cover these in more detail. Each one of these systems that we're talking about here, we're going to has its own chapter, and we're going to go into each one in a lot more detail. So the digestive system includes, all of the digestive organs, the excretions, such as the esophagus, the stomach, the intestine. Again, we'll go into more detail into the pathways. And I'm sure you can all hear the fire trucks. I'll just pause there for a second. I live next to no, Lucky, don't howl. And that's my dog outside howling. I live next to a fire station. It's about 10 minutes down the road. And it kind of feels like there's fire trucks going down there in the city if you kind of look at it that way. What else? So back to the digestive system. So it digests food, absorbs nutrients into the blood, and excretes undigested waste. And it receives sensory information for the sense of taste. And then the last system, which is one of my favorite, I want to say my favorite system, but all systems are, crucial in how they interact with each other. But the reason I like the endocrine system is because that's where all the control is happening within the body. Most people think control is happening within the nervous system, but the endocrine system is where actually all the control is. And so this system includes all of the various hormone glands, such as the pituitary, the adrenal, and the thyroid glands. And these glands produce and secrete hormones into the blood that in turn direct other organs, right? So sometimes they're directing organs directly. Sometimes they'll direct a preliminary organ that will direct a secondary organ. Go to the next slide. This will probably be a very short lecture. And I'm hoping that you all will be able to see this before class. And next slide. There we go. Okay. And this will be the last system, the sensory system. So this includes the eyes, the ears, and all body parts related to the five senses of seeing, smelling, hearing, tasting, and feeling. Right? These are all of our senses. So this thing goes too far to the next slide. So some parts of the system may be included within other body systems. Most likely they will be. Most systems are not. They're interrelated. So we have systems that sort of cross other systems, and they provide. So it's not that just they cross another system; they actually provide some function and ancillary function in a different system, and they have a primary function. So they have a primary component in this system, like the eyes and the ears, and then they have ancillary functions for other systems. But that's kind of true of all the systems that we've talked about. For example, the endocrine system has organs that release hormones for certain controls, but they're also part of the digestive system, which help with the breakdown of food stuff and bringing in nutrients into the body. Okay. So, next slide, number 9. There we go. All right, so there's 4 major body cavities. So we just finished talking about the systems. Let's talk about the cavities. And a cavity is just a hollow space, and it's surrounded by bones or muscles that support and protect the organs and the structures that are within the body cavity. And I have the body cavities listed up there. Oops. We have the cranial cavity, the spinal cavity, the thoracic cavity, and the abdominal pelvic cavity. There we go. Right. So the cranial cavity, that just contains the brain and obviously all the endocrine glands that are located within the cranial cavity and attached to the brain. You have the spinal cavity, and that is just that long protrusion, that cavity that comes down the back, and that contains the spinal cord. You have the thoracic cavity, and this is the cavity that contains the visceral organs such as the heart, the lungs, and all of the other associated structures. And then we have the 4th cavity, which is the abdominal pelvic cavity. And this contains the digestive system, the excretory glands, and the reproductive organs and the structures as well. Take me to the next slide. Take me to the other side. That was too far. What I need is I should have put a monitor up here so I can see the slides from here. Okay, just to have a little fun. I don't know if I can. Oh, there we go. Let me go way over there so you guys can see. I take your order right here. This is we have coffee, latte, cappuccino. This thing doesn't actually work. But I can hit all these things. If some of you are actually coming here to the back, you can probably see what I'm looking at. Coffee, latte, cappuccino, espresso, macchiato, mocha, and then you can check out. So there's nothing there, right? This is not real. It's not real wall. Those containers have no coffee. Those machines don't work, by the way, right? I can't grab them or do anything with these. All right. Okay. So I should have welcomed you from when I was here. Now I can walk because I have a virtual system, but if I physically walk in my living room, I will run into my dog. Okay, so I'm going to look at this eye. It's much better, much better. Let me get a little closer. Right there. Yeah, it's not really there. See, look. I don't know if you all are watching, if you're here, but yeah, I can see that one a whole lot better. Oh, I can see this one a whole lot better. Okay. All right, so let's get into. What did we leave off? Abdominal pelvic cavity. We are on slide 10. Ooh, that's way too far. Still, I'm going to keep doing it this way. Well, that's too fast. One more tap. All right, so we are on, no, that's slide 9. I wonder. There we go. Directional terms. I love directional terms. So again, your study of terminology, and again, I don't just use these for healthcare, I use these for engineers as well. It wouldn't be complete unless we talk about commonly used directional terms. And these terms help you describe the location of one structure, organ, or system in relation to another. So they assist in discussing the position or location of a patient's complaint. And these are the directional terms that we will be covering today. These are the things I say memorize. These few things. If I say memorize these 10 words, memorize these 10 words. So we have anterior or ventral, right? That just means, if we remember the word antes means front, and then posterior, we know that means back. There's older terminology, ventral and dorsal, right? Ventral, again, refers to the front, and dorsal refers to the back. You'll see ventral and dorsal in veterinary science or veterinary technology for any of you planning to go into veterinary medicine. So we don't use those anymore. We hardly use ventral and dorsal anymore. In human anatomy, you'll still see some older physicians who may use some of the terms that are outdated for human anatomy. But the proper modern terms are anterior and posterior. I'll try to point those out as we go along, because there are a lot of new terms that the anatomists around the world, like I mentioned before, they've come up with, the best terms that are the most correct, the most accurate terms for describing either directional terms or naming a particular structure. And you're going to be learning that modern terminology. You may go into a hospital and they will still continually use an outdated term only because they just have a hard time letting that go. Okay, so let's keep going. We have, again, what's it? Anterior and ventral, that indicates the front of the body, in contrast to posterior and dorsal, which indicates the back of the body. We have inferior, which is below another structure, or it's moving toward the feet, right? So if something's inferior, it's just moving toward the feet. Like my mouth is inferior to my eyes. I mean, they're both above in my upper body structure, but my mouth is inferior to my, hopefully I said it correctly, to my eyes, right? Because my mouth is actually for the feet. So superior means something is above another structure or moving toward the head. And then we have lateral, that means alongside another structure. And then medial refers to the middle or near the middle of the body structure. And we're almost done. It's going to be a very quick lecture. Getting through my slides. Oops, wow, it's way too fast. It's either really slow or really fast. We do this and we do that. There we go. Okay, slide 11. More directional terms. So we have proximal, distal, supine, and prone. Proximal and distal are directional terms. Supine and prone are body positions, right? So proximal just means located near the trunk of the body. I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing right here, near the trunk of the body, or a point of attachment, like right up here. Distal means something is located away from the trunk or point of attachment to the body. So distal, like my hand is distal from the trunk, I guess. That's not a good analogy, but if it's closer to the trunk, it's proximal. Then we have supine and prone. These are very important if any of you are planning to go into like physical therapy, occupational therapy. A little bit more right here, right there, and right there. All right, so supine refers to the body's position when you're lying on your spine with your face pointing upward. Now, if this was a real countertop, I would just kind of lay on the countertop and I'd be facing up like that. I don't know if the VR can pick me up like looking like this. And you're facing up, right? And prone, it's just the reverse. It's where you're lying on your stomach and you're facing, pointing down. So I'm like this. Yeah. Almost there, everyone. Very short lecture. And I'm also going to try to put the, excuse me, scratching my nose here. I'm also going to try to do the, one of the quizzes. See if I can actually pop one of the quizzes in here. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right. Oh, and my cat is, not my cat. The cat is making noise now. All right, so we are on slide 12, more directional terms, right? So you can see there's many directional terms and they can be used to describe the body in one position in relation to another, and directional terms are kind of illustrated up here. For those of you who are going into X-ray or radiology, you'll use these terms quite a bit, right? Anterior meaning toward the front, posterior going to the back. So if I'm doing an AP or an AP scan or an image, that means I'm taking an image of the person from the front to the back, right? From that direction. I can't see the rest. Oh, right up here. Okay, it's a little bit better. We have inferior, which we mentioned earlier. That means toward the feet. Superior, which means toward the head. And then we have two other terms that I didn't discuss in the slides and the notes, and that's cephalic and caudal. So cephalic also means toward the head. The word cephalic means head, but caudal, it means butt. So it means toward the butt. So if something's caudal, it means toward that. I don't know if I can point with this. I don't think I have a laser pointer. But yeah, so if you can see where it says butt there. So if something is caudal, that just means toward the butt area, as opposed to something that's inferior, which goes further down into the feet. Right? And then we can see the individual facing forward in the anatomical position. Anatomical position just means that you're facing forward, your palms are facing outwards, and your face is facing outwards, right? So if I'm looking at someone from this direction, facing me, feet forward, hands to the side, and palms facing outward with thumbs radial, meaning lateral, right? And all the same terms there. So the image to your right side is the anatomical position. And the image to the left side, I can't tell if that person is actually in the anatomical position, but just facing sideways, but that's a lateral view. And this is a frontal view right over here. Okay. And let's go to how we can actually use these words in context. Okay, a little more. What's this? Last slide, promise you. All right, so we're going to do these, I don't know. I'll try to do these recordings. That way you can kind of do this and not have to hear me say these things always. But we're going to do a little detective story at the end of every lecture from here on out. Once we start talking about systems, right? So the last two lectures, prefixes, suffixes, word roots, we couldn't do very much with them, but now we're getting a little understanding of medical terminology and how we can use it to properly, use it in context. So I'll have to read it up here. So it says, a dead body is discovered lying in the prone position in an alleyway. Which of the following observations can you make without moving the body? So imagine that you're a lawyer and then someone says, they ran across this body in the alleyway and they're describing a wound. And you think, well, could they have seen that wound from the body being in the prone position without touching the without touching the body, the victim, right? So it says, which of the following observations can you make without moving the body? Can you observe a puncture wound below the navel? Can you observe a laceration in the pectoral region? Can you observe a crush injury to the sternum? Or can you observe a gunshot wound to the right buttock, right? Oh, wait, kitty, wait. No cats allowed here in the Engage Coffee Cafe. And I'm going to give you all a few seconds to answer. And if you guessed gunshot wound to the right buttock, yes. Because if the patient is in the prone position, what does that mean? The patient is lying face down, stomach down, face down, back and butt up or facing up. And the only thing you'd be able to observe in this position would be a gunshot wound in the butt area. Okay. Now, let me see if I can do this one here. Okay. What I am going to do, I don't know if you can see this. If I run a quiz, I don't think you can see the quiz. Test. And I don't think I can share the quiz. Start. No. Yeah, I don't think I can do that. But let me hit start and see what happens. And it doesn't allow me to share the screen up there because that's all you see. Back to the list. No. Okay, I was hoping I could share the quiz up there on the screen, but it won't. Every one of you are going to get your own questions. So let me go ahead and stop this. Back to the list. I don't know what that is. If I can't do that, content. Yeah, that's it. form. I'm just going to hit deliver here, and I don't know if you will all be able to see this when you see this recording, though. If you could, that would be great. Who would you like to deliver this form to? Everyone. We're going to confirm.